figure out today, like in greater depth, like we got to define your fatigue and when you have it, and try to find the mechanisms. Anxiety you've had like forever.
Yeah.
And so I got to figure out more about that.
Yeah, that's probably gotten a little better.
Your anxiety, okay.
Yeah.
And then like you seem to have ongoing episodes with depression and anxiety, so that's kind of their own thing. And then brain fog, the lungs is a big concern.
Yeah.
Like that needs to be figured out, because that could be why you constantly have brain fog and all these other symptoms that's going on. You know, like have you read a lot about autoimmunity? It seems like you've read up on at least some things, right?
A little bit, but I just saw recently a post on Instagram of yours that was talking about autoimmunity in your lungs, I think.
Yes.
And I'd never heard of that.
Yeah, so that's the thing too, is your lung barrier is just as active as the gut microbiome, and it kind of gets overlooked, it does get overlooked in healthcare.
Yeah.
So I'm really worried about your lung barrier function and that being a constant source of activation, because you do have a lot of IgE reactions.
Yeah.
And, so is that what's causing your brain fog? So is there a relationship between your respiration, like your asthma, and how you're breathing, and your phlegm, and your brain fog?
I don't know. Everything kind of like changed when I got on Advair, because now I don't really have breathing problems. I mean, occasionally it'll be like tight. And yeah, I guess I do feel brain fog more so, or just kind of like stuffy pressure in my head.
Okay. So this is going to be really important. So there's a few things that we have to talk about that you need to like have consciousness for, and start paying attention for it, and see if we can connect and some of the dots together with the mechanisms. Okay? So it's absolutely, so whenever you see someone has chronic brain fog and chronic fatigue, you got to like, what's the source? Okay? Now there is something that's a pretty big red flag in your medical history when it comes to brain fog, and that's when you had your bladder infections and you had like stroke-like symptoms.
Yeah.
And they diagnosed it as migraine.
Yeah.
That may have not been the right diagnosis.
Well, they said I had an infection too that went into my kidneys.
Right.
Okay.
So there's a phenomena called microglia priming. Have you heard of it before?
Yeah. I don't remember.
So I'll review with you just so a big part of what I want to do is also kind of educate you, because if you can understand the possible mechanisms that are involved, we're gonna, you can communicate back with me more efficiently. There'll be a list of things I'll put together. Like, I want you to connect with me on a weekly basis with emails, let me know how things are.
Okay.
Because the case like yours, it's not like it's not black and white, right? So we got to figure out where the shades of gray are, and we got to figure out what the underlying mechanisms are. And there's gonna be some trial and error in those things. So one of the mechanisms that can happen to some people is they can get something called microglial priming. And microglial priming means you have immune cells in your brain that normally clean up debris. Like if you look at your brain structure, you have two types of cells. You have neurons, which are involved with firing your brain and changing your mood, and all the neurological functions you have are all really working through neurons. Then you have another group of cells in the brain that are called glial cells. They're called neuroglia, microglia, the same thing. And they're the immune cells of the brain. And what they do is they clean up debris of the brain. Okay. So over time, like some of our cells die, some of our nerve branches are inefficient, they basically go in there and clean it up. That's their job, right? Well, after head injury, and you've had some of these glial cells can become what we call primed, which means the impact was significant enough to turn them on, and they stay on. And then they become really, really susceptible to anything that triggers the inflammatory response. And when they get activated, they cause brain inflammation. And when people have brain inflammation, they get brain fog.
Yeah.
And then when people have brain inflammation, their nerve speed in their brain goes down, because inflammation gets in the way of nerve conduction.
Yeah.
And they can get depression, and they can get fatigue, and they have all those things that can happen. So one of the mechanisms to look at with this is do you have primed glial cells? Because you've had some blows, and you felt like maybe even your asthma, right, was triggered after you had a head injury.
Yeah.
So, primed glial cells happen in elderly patients all the time, where they get like delirium, and they think they have Alzheimer's, they had a stroke, with bladder and kidney infections. Because elderly patients have primed glial cells. Over a period of time, these cells get activated just by age.
Yeah.
So, like, you're showing up with the pattern of a senior citizen will come in and say, yeah, I had my bladder infection and they thought I had a stroke. I had my bladder infection. And
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, my initial feeling, is the possibility that you have some prime glial cells and your bladder infection was significant enough to really turn them on, and you didn't actually have a migraine because it doesn't seem like a migraine pattern.
Yeah.
And especially because it's directly related to infection. That's happened twice, right?
Well, the second time I didn't have any infection.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you just had.
I had the
migraine. Was there a trigger? Was there an inflammatory immune trigger at that point? Do you remember?
I don't think there. Did they say? I mean, I didn't think anything happened even that day.
Okay. So one of the things.
Oh wait, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I forgot. A couple days prior, I was in Bryan Head, which is like 10,000 feet up, and the entire time I was there, I had like a bad headache, like a migraine the whole time.
Yeah, hypoxia can activate prime glial cells for sure.
Mm.
So that's another trigger, inflammation or hypoxia. So you might have what we call prime glial cells. Okay, there's things you can do for it, but you just have to figure out the mechanism, because that can maybe be a key factor to your fatigue and depression and things as well. But what I want you to both start looking for is patterns. And one of the patterns you're looking for is your brain fog triggered by an immune response. And your biggest immune response from your history is really your respiratory issues.
Yeah.
So right now you're kind of hiding it because you're taking
a
bronchodilator steroid to kind of make everything okay.
Yeah.
But you can still have immune triggers being on that medication.
Yeah.
You just can't recognize the lung symptoms as well.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
But start having that consciousness, because that could be one of the mechanisms. Because the thing is, when you read your history, is like you don't know why you all of a sudden have anxiety. You don't know why you also have depression. You don't you don't understand the connection with those things.
Yeah.
So one part of it is you need to know what those mechanisms are, so you understand it. And more importantly, we need to know what those mechanisms are, so we can then look at interventions that are effective. Like if you have prime glial cells, that would change your approach completely than if you didn't.
Oh.
What's the time frame for something like that to happen? Like
these prime glial cells?
Or no, more like the immune response.
Oh, it's within it could be hours or days. Within a day. It's pretty quick.
Would like being around animals like dogs trigger something like that?
Yes, because for Madison, she has a really upregulated bronchial system, right?
Yeah.
So her lung immune system is really overactive.
Yeah.
With her history and her pattern.
Yeah.
So your most common triggers are not going to be food for you. It's going to be inhalants.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we want to look for relationships between inhalants and brain fog.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because sometimes, like, if our house is really dirty because we have dogs.
Yeah, that's one of the things that absolutely do is change your air quality in your home.
Yeah.
That's on the list of things I want to go with you. There's lots of things you can do with that, but go ahead.
Okay. Oh, no, I just noticed that I'll start having trouble breathing. It'll be, like, tight, even though I'm on Advair, and then I think I do get brain fog.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. So these relationships, in recent years, there's like the microbiome has gotten a lot of attention in research circles. And there's been something called the Human Microbiome Project, where the NIH, National Institute of Health, has put together tons of money for researchers to investigate the microbiome. And they found relationships between the gut microbiome, and the gut barrier, the lung barrier, and the blood-brain barrier. That these cells all communicate and connect and talk to each other. And when you like activate one, you'll activate the other, right? So now there's studies showing people fixing their microbiome and their asthma improves, and people, these type of things.
Yeah.
So your history is screaming like an overactive, breached, like leaky lung, like people have leaky gut, like leaky lung, overactive mast cells in your lung, and then your panels with IgE you've had tested, like you're reacting to a lot of things, and there could be a possibility for you to not get any of this inflammation down until you're down-regulate your lung mechanism, right?
Yeah.
And we're not talking about just like lung disease, but the fact you have asthma and the fact that you have to take a bronchodilator steroid on a daily basis is like a red flag. To overlook that would be insane.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's overlook that and let's check your vitamin D levels.
Yeah.
I think you have adrenal fatigue. That's nonsense. That's like, it's right in front of us.
Yeah.
It's like screaming.
Yeah.
This is like when you look at your medical history and you go, okay, everything's right there. Why is everyone going around?
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at that's what's so obviously there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you feel like you need the inhaler? Because didn't you try going off of it?
Well, the pulmonologist did testing and they said that they didn't think I needed it anymore, but like when I've tried to go off of it, it seems like my adrenals get fatigued or something.
You can. I mean, not to say that you may not have some stressors against your adrenal glands and things like that, but it's secondary.
Yeah.
It's not your primary condition, right?
Yeah.
So, and your adrenal glands, they do have a role in helping with bronchodilation because they release epinephrine, norepinephrine, but it creates a vicious cycle. Like if you keep having the trigger, you keep activating your stress response, your adrenal response, and trying to get bronchodilation, and then that fatigues those systems, but it's secondary. It's like not the main pathway.
Yeah, because I do worry, like, even if I take it off of it, I still am going to have allergies to everything, so probably would get worse.
Right, and also, you have to understand, like, what you're taking is also, has some glucocorticoid properties in there, and that'll continue to thin out the lung barrier.
Yeah.
So steroids, glucocorticoids thin out barriers, lung barrier, gut barriers, and those things. They have an anti-inflammatory effect, which is good. But if you actually do have, let's say, compromised lung mucosa, like overactive lung mucosa and pulmonary barrier permeability, you're not going to get out of it.
Yeah.
Constantly being on a steroid.
Yeah. So I do have like a really phlegmy cough.
Yeah.
Just
That's
every day.
inflammation.
Okay.
So when your mast cells fight something, they part of that side effect of that is mucus production.
Yeah.
And mucus is from these cells, these antigens being attacked and broken down in the immune response. And that constant phlegm is actually a red flag. You've had it. You've always had it. And recently, if you hadn't tested for it, and your pulmonologists have done a good job ruling out like pulmonary disease.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at this as why are you in a heightened state of inflammation? Is that inflammation causing your chief complaints, fatigue, depression, and so forth, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not within my scope of practice to have you go off any of your medications. I can't and won't ask you to do that. But there is there's that connection that you have to think about, and we have to figure out strategies for, right, and how we want to address that.
Okay.
Have you gone periods of time without having your medication?
No, I'm very consistent.
So if you don't have it, what would happen?
Well, when I tried to go off of it, I did I think I just skipped one dose every 3 days because I do 2 a day, and I think I started getting a little tight after a week, and then I just had intense anxiety.
So it does trigger anxiety.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I try to go off of it, or when I decrease it at all.
What about your depression?
I think that when that happened, it was probably mostly anxiety, but then the anxiety triggers depression. So, I don't know. I think I was mostly just freaking out.
What about fatigue? What about your energy levels?
Just during that week that I was trying to decrease it? I don't know.
Okay.
It was a year ago, so I think maybe I was a little fatigued, but I'm not sure.
What's the long-term plan with your pulmonologist? Your pulmonologist said he or she's okay with you going off of it.
Yeah, and then that's when I tried, and then I wasn't successful, so then I just continued my normal dose, and then she had, in the meantime, sent me to an infectious disease doctor.
Okay. Right, and then they said you have reoccurring.
Well, yeah, that was because I tested positive for
mycobacteria.
Yeah, but then I think they said I tested positive 2 or 3 times, but not because you do 3 tests each time, and I would just be 1 out of the 3.
Yeah.
So they didn't say that was significant enough.
Yeah, and just to give you a correlation to what we see with the gut microbiome, a lot of times we'll have a person that keeps having a reoccurring bacterial overgrowth, or even having a parasite. And the amount of times they try to treat it, they never get rid of it.
Yeah.
And as they finally get their microbiome healthy, start digesting and start assimilating, and their gut immune system gets healthier, it's gone.
Yeah.
Those types of mechanisms may be similar to maybe what's happening with mycobacterium and your lung. I don't know, but obviously it's not significant enough for them to be worried.
Yeah.
So, but again, listen, the clinical strategy for you with your fatigue and anxiety and depression may all have to start with the lungs.
Okay.
We might really have to get your air quality improved, try to fix your lung barrier, there's definitely a different nutraceutical approach for the lung barrier versus gut barrier.
Okay.
That we have to consider. But that's a big part. So the consciousness of that, so right now you're in a point where all your respiratory symptoms are being suppressed. Okay. At some point, we may need you to connect with your prescribing physician and connect and communicate, because again, I can't tell you what to do with your medication, about going off.
Okay.
Unless they're already okay with you doing that, and
Yeah.
you've had those discussions, but
Yeah.
I can't be involved with that.
Okay.
And see how you respond.
Yeah.
Because it's not good for you to be on something like that long term, and there's an underlying problem you're just suppressing.
Yeah.
That underlying problem is going to cause systemic inflammation throughout your body, and that will accelerate aging. That will accelerate all degenerative processes in your body.
Okay.
You know, so it's not like I'm okay as long as I take this. No, there's a red light going off.
Yeah.
Here. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not. It's just because you don't have direction.
Yeah.
You know, it's not you don't have right intentions. Okay, so.
So I did with the infectious disease doctor. He prescribed me like a smaller dose of the Advair. So I'm gonna try to like slowly just alternate down, and then maybe eventually go off.
Okay, so that's the. So for us working together, I need to know where you are with that, where you're trying with it. Okay. Ultimately, and first of all, we may have to change your air quality in your home, because people that have respiratory issues. It's like, well, how many hours? For example, how many hours are you in your home when you count sleep?
Probably like 22 a day.
And is that just because of COVID, or is that a normal thing? Like, I work at home.
Yeah, we work from home. Yeah.
Okay. So your work and sleep is a big part of your day.
Yeah.
So you're at least there 12 hours a day, right? And up to 20.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, a lot.
If that is a antigen pool of triggers,
Yeah.
because your air quality is bad, you can't recover.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go and try to all these different fancy supplements for your anxiety and depression, all this stuff. None of that's gonna work. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
So we have air purifiers in almost every room, air doctor, and then
It's HEPA filters.
I thought so. Aren't they all?
We gotta make sure they're HEPA filters. You might need to get a central air purifying system in your home. They're about $1,500. You have an AC fan. Even in Las Vegas, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
3 of them.
There are some air purifiers that are really, really effective for environmental allergens,
Oh, okay.
where they release respiratory, basically airborne hydrogen peroxide, and they decontaminate mold spores and triggers and antigens, and they'll actually impact whatever allergens you have and clump them together, so your filter can clean them out more efficiently, because the ions and hydrogen peroxides clump them together, so they're cleaned out faster, and that makes a huge difference for people that have respiratory issues and asthma, allergy, mold issues, more so than a filter.
Okay.
If the filter you have is not a HEPA filter, you might as well throw it away.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to double check on that.
Yeah.
Let me know about that. Let me make a list of things.
They are.
They
I'm
are.
not sure.
And then are you changing the filters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So I have a toy poodle, which is hypoallergenic, and then we took in my friend's dog, who's a husky, and he sheds everywhere. Is that just making it 10 times worse for me?
Yeah.
Do you think?
So what I need working together for the first few months is really committed approach to something, because it's not just therapeutic, it's diagnostic.
Mm-hmm.
If we change your air quality and start supporting your lung barrier and doing things, and all of a sudden your energy levels go up, you feel better, and you feel like you don't need to take your medication, that's a huge win. But if you're having a friend's dog come in all the time and do things,
Well, he lives with us.
oh well, shit. So I can tell you that could be the difference.
Yeah, because she couldn't have him anymore, so we have him.
But you have reactions to IgE reactions against I know, like, come on.
Yeah.
How much do you guys love this dog?
I could do without him, but I would not be able to separate from my poodle. But he's already, I mean, he's going to be 14, so.
Well, they say he's hypoallergenic. I don't know what that
I know. So he doesn't have dog hair. I don't know.
I don't either. I have to look up what that means in relation. You might be okay with your poodle.
Yeah.
But
the husky sheds, though. So
yeah,
the husky sheds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have an overactive respiratory system, and you have prime glial cells, which it sounds like you have them from your history, from brain trauma, and you constantly have a trigger to that respiratory system, you don't have a chance.
Yeah.
So what are the major things besides dogs? Like
everything Madison tested IgE for is a problem.
Okay.
Because IgEs are immediate reactions that involve mast cells, and that's really the main pathway of the lungs for triggering inflammation. Okay. With like people that have gut issues, it's really more about food sensitivities and IgG testing, but when it's pulmonary, it's really all IgE, and you've already had a pretty good IgE test.
Yeah.
For allergens, but if those are the main red flags.
And then the hydrogen peroxide thing you said, that filter.
It's an air purifier.
Purifier that helps a lot with.
It makes a huge difference. Like your first day, you'll notice.
That should we do that and the AC thing? Okay.
Well, that's going to connect into your vent AC.
Oh, it is the
into your home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And do you have one AC unit or two?
3.
You have 3.
Yeah.
So you have a big place.
Yeah.
So you'll need 3.
Okay.
You need one for each
that
unit.
was the $1,500 thing you were talking about?
They're about $1,500.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll give you a name of them. You probably contact your local AC guy in Las Vegas. They're pretty common. A lot of people that have allergies have them in their homes.
Yeah, sounds great.
They'll know about them. And then you definitely want to get those installed. Just with your history alone, you want to get those installed.
Yeah.
But my goal is to see. So my initial strategy, reviewing your file and really thinking about your case and like what's the best approach and how we're going to go after this, is get rid of the smoke screen with the inflamed lungs and that pulmonary activation, and see what's left over.
Okay. And
if we see relationships between you having cognitive issues when you have respiratory responses, that's a difference. Like let me ask you a question. If you are outside and away from your home, do you notice any difference? And how you feel?
I guess sometimes I do feel better outside of the house. Like when we were in Park City, I felt like I could breathe better.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And how's your mood and how's your brain function, anxiety?
Well, actually, it wasn't great.
It wasn't.
So,
but that was also high altitude.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
What about just coming out here?
When we come here.
I
mean, we're also like on vacation kind of too.
I know, so you were in a better mood already, but no, I mean, like last night I had a little bit like irritation because I think you mentioned that you felt like you couldn't.
Well, pay attention to it. It's not gonna the problem is when you go indoors, you still might have triggers indoors, like wherever you're staying.
Right. Yeah.
But what when you're outdoors?
I know that's sometimes even worse.
Because of the allergens.
Yeah.
A lot of times she wears a mask when she goes for walks.
Yeah.
Does it help?
Yeah, a little. I mean, it just depends on the season, and then I guess wherever we are, like in Vegas, the spring and the fall, I think are pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Have you ever used those heavy duty masks that keep all pores out that they use in construction sites? You ever use those?
But I don't use them when I'm outside because I feel like it look weird.
Right, but do you ever use them?
Yeah. Inside the house.
You do wear them inside the house?
Sometimes, if I'm having trouble breathing.
Right. And does it help you?
I think maybe.
But it's already triggered for you, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be triggered.
Yeah, it's already going on. So.
If you didn't wear the mask, would it take longer to recover?
Probably.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the consciousness I need you guys both to have of okay, we're really looking at this as now airborne triggers.
Yeah.
And any relationship that has to chief complaints. You put your number one chief complaints fatigue. Okay.
Yeah.
And then anxiety, depression, brain fog are the other ones.
Yeah.
Right. So the first 4 symptoms, the first chief complaints, the first 4 chief complaints you have: fatigue, anxiety, depression, and brain fog. may all be triggered by your respiratory response if you have prime glial cells, which you might.
Okay.
Now you have like the classical red flag presentation of prime glial cells, which is infection causes complete shutdown of the brain like a stroke.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. And people that have migraines, there's not a direct association with an infection or hypoxia. The second time you had it, you were in high altitudes.
Yeah.
So you had a hypoxia event and you had an infection. Both those are classical triggers for prime glial cells. Although they cause delirium, or and then when they're in like senior homes, they get sent out and they think a patient had a stroke.
Yeah. So this last time that it happened, it lasted for like a couple of hours, and then so what makes it go away when it started getting better?
Yeah, probably just your respiratory immune response calmed down.
Mm.
But was it immediate or was it over 2 hours?
It was because we were at the ER, so it was like over a couple hours. I started being able to think.
And that's kind of hard to tell because with anything vascular, anything that comes on quickly, there's the two main possibilities are infection or vascular. So there's an overlap between not an infection but an antigen trigger and vascular because they kind of start to go up quick and they can calm down. For some people that have prime glial cells, they can have like symptoms that are less severe for a few days after.
Yeah.
Like brain fogginess and they're just not totally recovered, or like someone that gets a blow to the head and they recover but they're still not there all a couple days afterwards. Did you have those kind of symptoms?
I think probably for a couple of days after, I just felt like I was like recovering from an event sort of thing.
Okay. All right. So that's the first connection that I want to have with you and make sure we're on the same page with. Right? Okay. Makes sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. The second part of it is just to go through and figure out mechanisms of fatigue. When you say fatigue, tell me what that means. And is it all the time? It's not so clear with your case review what you mean by that.
Okay.
So I want to tell you. So with fatigue, let me give you some examples. It's morning fatigue, it's all-day fatigue, it's unpredictable fatigue, it's fatigue after meals, it's fatigue after doing some type of cognitive task, it's fatigue after something at work.
I mean, it's all of those.
All the above.
Yeah, I mean, it's all day, but then it can get worse for, like, if I exercise or if I don't eat on time or mental exertion, I get...
Does your fatigue always correlate with brain fog?
Probably.
Okay, so that's the very important relationship.
Yeah, like often you have brain fog when you're tired.
Yeah.
I don't know which one is worse.
Well, I mean, what do you think? Like, all day, am I just kind of like...
No, definitely.
I have to focus. I have to, like,
Some days it's definitely worse than others, for sure. And then after if we're working or whatever for a few hours, then it definitely seems worse. You have to focus.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. I get, like, drunk feeling when I have been focusing too long.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about that because that could be cerebral. Like, for example, the fact that you weren't able to speak, that's the Broca's area. It's in the left frontal cortex. So where people have symptoms when they get glial activation tells you what areas were probably injured.
Mm-hmm.
So drunkenness is the cerebellum.
Mm-hmm.
So alcohol, for example, suppresses the cerebellum and causes those symptoms. Neurological cerebellum evaluation is the same thing as a DUI evaluation because of that direct relationship there.
Yeah.
So whenever we hear like I feel drunk, and by drunk you mean like you're unsteady, you can't.
Yeah, and my mind's like loopy.
Your mind's all loopy. Yeah. So those are all cerebellum presentations. So people that get cerebellar injury, they'll always say stuff like, "Yeah, I feel drunk." People that get cerebral brain injury, they go, "I just felt drunk for like the first 3 months, and then I started to recover." That's a typical thing. People that get vascular injuries of their cerebellum and get like a little stroke, those arteries, they'll usually come say, "I feel drunk."
Yeah.
I had that symptom of being drunk. So that's important for us. But we're going to do a really thorough exam on you today, like head to toe exam, and a very thorough neurological exam, so we'll be able to find any patterns you may have had, any areas that may have been injured, like from your past head traumas.
Okay.
But that's one of them. And then I'll show you the form you fill out, which is the brain region localization form, and it's areas we're concerned about. But back to fatigue. So there is a pretty good association between brain fog and fatigue for you, right?
Yeah, I think so.
What percent of the time would you say correlates?
I would say most. I mean, it's weird because it does. I don't know what's coming first, but it does seem like they're almost always correlated, aren't they?
Yeah, probably.
So like 90%. Okay, because anything above 50 is clinically relevant.
Oh,
yeah, definitely.
Well, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll say 90%. Okay, so that's the thing. So if it's fatigue and it's brain fog, and just think of brain fog. All really brain fog is in reality is your nerve conduction speed is slowed down. That's all. That's the when most people have nerve conduction speed slowed down. They just can't get to my thought. I can't think. I can't focus. Right. That's what you mean by brain fog.
Yeah.
Explain your brain fog.
Yeah. Sometimes I just can't think of words, or like I can't even think. I guess.
Right.
I just go blank sometimes.
Right.
I'm trying to think what else. Like just, or I can't focus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those are all basically nerve conduction going down, and then once the inflammation goes away, nerves speed up again, and then function comes back. So we see. So if I look at your fatigue, so there's definitely that brain fog association, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you have prime glial cells, drops in blood sugar can also activate them.
Yeah.
So you do notice that as well.
Yeah.
So is it when you miss meals or?
Yeah, or if I go too long without eating.
So okay.
I'll just start getting.
So how many hours does it take for you to have that come on?
I mean, it depends. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not much.
No.
So you have to eat every 2 to 4 hours.
Kinda, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, you'll have.
Yeah, I get.
You get anxiety too.
A little bit, yeah. Okay. Not always, but sometimes.
So you kind of like have a hypoglycemia trigger.
Yeah, I have a thing on.
Continuous blood glucose monitor.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
What does that show?
I don't know. So I had it already for 2 weeks, and then this is a new one. And then at first it was like a lot of lows, and then I tried to make sure I was eating on time, and I would drink collagen powder with water before bed.
You didn't send me that information, right? Because I don't have it.
I don't know how to.
Is it in there?
She has that on her phone.
Yeah.
Can you take a screenshot of it or something?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I like to see your more so your original ones before you start eating more frequently.
Okay.
But the pattern was low.
It also spiked up high and then
afternoons.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
and it didn't seem like she was eating like anything that would cause it to go.
Yeah. So that's a classic reactive hypoglycemic. Now on your forms you fill out, you didn't have very clear symptoms that I could tell, but maybe it's because you're eating more regularly and you're okay with it now.
Yeah, you do seem to. I mean, over the past 6 months, you've probably done a good job of eating more consistently.
Yeah. Because we thought I might have blood sugar problem like last year, and so I was trying to be really more strict.
Have you ever tried intermittent fasting, and did you fall apart trying it, or did you okay with it, or?
I have done it where it's like only, I think I was doing like 18 hours maybe, or 14 to 18 hours, and I was fine for a couple weeks, and then it went downhill.
You went downhill?
Yeah.
Okay. Because these studies have only been done in animals, because there's no way they can do them in humans. But one of the only ways to get rid of prime glial cells and injured cells is by promoting autophagy. Autophagy is a process where you get rid of these cells, right?
Yeah.
Dead cells, injured cells,
What
prime glial cells. Autophagy, AUTOPHAGY. Phagy means eat. Auto means you turn on. A self-regulated mechanism where your microglial cells eat the overactive cells and get rid of them and get rid of any debris in the brain.
And that can happen during intermittent fasting, right? That's how you do it.
So again, they do this in animals because in animals they can cut the brain open and see it. They can't do it on humans because there's no really good way to see that. You have to use a microscope to see those cells. You can't do it with an MRI or something. So in animal studies, which the only thing we can't have to correlate to humans, like autophagy turns in with time restricted feeding, and it really turns in like 3 days into it.
Oh.
Yeah, like there's a big difference between 14 hours and a 3 day.
Wow.
On turning on the genes that turn on autophagy. There's certain genes that turn on like really profoundly when the time restricted feeding
So you just do it like once for 5 days, and then that cures?
We don't do 5. We do is 3, because in 5 you start getting you start going to wasting response, and you want to we don't want to put you in a catabolic state, where your tissues and proteins and things start breaking down. That'll make you much worse.
Yeah.
Anabolic, you still can stay anabolic within 3 days, but when you're hypoglycemic, it's not time.
Yeah.
Okay.
That might be something we transition into if you do have this prime glial. It's just screaming prime glial cells. It's screaming lung barrier. It's hard to even think of other mechanisms because it's getting more and more clear the more we talk.
Yeah.
Okay. But at some point we may have you jump into that kind of intervention.
Okay.
Don't do anything until we get your right now. If you are unstable and your hypoglycemia is there and you got lots of brain inflammation, brain fog, you could fall apart. So in 2 weeks when you weren't responding to it well, what was happening?
It started going really high, but then I realized I was taking too much vitamin C. I think was interacting. It said.
That was what symptoms were you having when you said you couldn't do it?
Oh, sorry.
With the fasting.
When it was with the fasting. I think I just started having really bad anxiety and shakiness and hot feeling.
Yeah, that's all your epinephrine going up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You weren't able to adapt.
Yeah.
It's a stress response, basically. So you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So that might be a strategy down the road. Okay. So we'll have layers, just so you know, when we develop a treatment plan, we'll have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and kind of have a big picture layout. Somewhere in the later phases, we want to think about really being very aggressive, turning on autophagy. Okay. But it's not going to be in phase 1. Phase 1 is basically going to be cleaning up your air quality. Okay, that'll probably be phase 1. And within phase 1, we'll probably also support your lung barrier, assuming it's breach. But we don't have a test for lung permeability. One test what we used to do, but it won't work since you're on your medication, is we have people taking really, really deep breaths and see if they cough. Is that what would happen to you if you're taking really, really deep breaths?
I don't know.
We'll try it when we test you.
Okay.
But and what that does is just brings in it pushes all this pressure into the lungs. And if it's irritated.
Yeah.
It'll induce a cough reflex.
I think they gave me a little thing to do that with, where you have to suck in air and then bring the little thing up.
That was something else. That's spirometric.
Oh, okay.
We'll do that too. We'll test you with that. Okay. All right.
Would it make sense if she's going to go off the lung medication to wait?
Yeah.
After not doing the first phase?
No.
Okay.
Do what? The test?
Take the Advair, lower the Advair or whatever.
Oh, not do it in the first phase. Okay.
No, I think the best scenario is to make sure you have the right filters and stuff in your house. We're going to get you air particle measure, so you can actually measure the air particles in your house. You can order off Amazon. I'll send you a link to this stuff.
Okay.
And then we're gonna actually measure the air particles in your home and in each room. And then you see your filters are making sure your filters are HIPAAs, and then you have the air purifier, and then you have to find something to do with that dog.
Yeah.
That seems to be a major one. Have you ever tried low dose antigen therapy? I didn't read that. You know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
This is done by an immunologist, allergist I should say. And what they'll do is they'll look at your IgE reactions.
Oh, like the shots under the arm.
Yeah, do you do that?
Yeah, I have done that. Yeah.
Did it work for you?
That did not. So right now I'm doing the sublingual
Okay.
drops.
Okay, so you're familiar with it, and you have someone that's doing that for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually they do it nationwide. It's called Curax.
Yeah, there's different patent names for the.
They said all the medicine's the same.
Yeah, it's all the same.
But
as long as you get the antigen exposure, it's got a 50-50 success.
Yeah.
But there's actually really good published research on it, and some people respond. No one knows exactly why. Some people respond, some people don't.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered that?
I've thought about it. I didn't want to do the shots, but I would consider this.
Yeah.
What's the one you're doing?
It's called Curex. Curex.com, I think.
Oh, okay. Oh, I think I have seen that.
And they just ship nationwide. Basically, they just have an allergist you talk to.
Okay. So that might be something to, because when you have these IgE responses, these kind of interventions can sometimes make a difference. It's like a 50-50. And if it does, it can be huge for you.
Yeah.
But even if it does, we really want to make sure your air quality is not triggering you all day, and your lung immune system is healthy, and your lung barrier is healthy, before you jump into taking low dose antigens and trying to get your system to regulate, right?
Mm-hmm. So I think I'm allergic to dust mites. I don't really know what to do about that.
But that's where the air purifier, home purifier, will be huge.
It seems like we almost don't want to clean up like dust sometimes because it makes your symptoms worse.
Yeah, you'll have to leave.
Yeah.
Like once you put your air purifier in, that'll help with that, and they'll typically have like the fan running to keep it going for a few days. And then you want to have like a team come in and do a deep clean, right, of everything, and you might not. You might have to, like maybe go to a nice hotel or just something for a few days, go to a resort, hang out by the pool.
Your parents' house.
Parents' house, something like that. And then let all that stuff get out of there.
Yeah.
And then move back in. And you might notice a huge difference in your energy levels and how you feel. Actually, that'll be a very diagnostic thing.
Okay.
So definitely keep track of symptoms before and after.
How do we balance the outdoor allergens, like from having the doors open and windows and that kind of thing?
You won't always be able to. The only chance you have with that is the low-dose antigen therapy, if that works.
So we should kind of keep the doors and windows closed then for this?
Yeah, you might need to, improve the air quality.
Yeah.
Because when you buy an air particle meter, you can kind of see the windows are open, like how much particles you're getting in your air.
Oh, that's cool.
And as far as the trees and plants that you tested for with the IgE test, are those around your home?
I'm not actually sure, because we live on Lake Las Vegas. I don't know if you're familiar with Vegas.
I only know the tourist areas. I mean, I don't know how the neighborhoods are.
Yeah, it's on the outskirts of Vegas. There's just dirt. But I think there were some trees that I thought.
You had a lot of things you read.
But on your property itself, are there?
No.
Okay.
But there's grass right behind our backyard.
Okay. And you are testing for grass.
Yeah, grass is huge.
Yeah. So can you change that?
It's not ours. It's part of the community.
Oh, it's not that much, honestly. I don't know how much.
Right behind our house.
It's just like a little patch.
Well,
okay. We'll see what you can do with your home first.
Yeah.
Air quality there, and then see if you can. So first thing we would do is keep your doors closed, get everything cleaned out, measure air particles, find a new home for your dog, do a deep clean, and just see how you feel.
Okay.
And then start opening windows, and then it might be best not to, especially if particle levels go up and you notice symptoms. But get that sterile environment first. Okay. And then here's the thing too: if you're in your home 12, 15 hours a day with sleep and work, and that environment changes, that could be enough to reduce a lot of your systemic inflammation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, it's interesting because it does seem like your symptoms, you were saying, got a little bit worse. We just moved in March of last year to a
2 years ago. It's almost 2 years.
2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, right before COVID. And we had the same animals, and the old house was a lot dirtier, seeming because it was a rental.
Yeah.
And we moved into a brand new house, and it seemed like the symptoms got a little bit worse. Maybe it has to do with outside or.
There's more chemicals sometimes in a new home.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Okay. So, if you look at this list here, this was done with an IgE respiratory allergy test for your region, region 15 with Quest. It's different. Each lab has different breakdowns in regions. I think with LabCorp it's different.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for sure, dust mites, right? Mold.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be important. Dander, dog dander. We have to find out your dog species that has dog dander. It's a poodle?
Yeah. The husky definitely does, because I'm allergic to him.
Okay. I think it might be okay with that. Olive tree? Is there any olive trees around?
Yeah, actually, right behind our house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I thought it was only a certain type, like the ones that are fruit-bearing are...
Like cottonwood.
And I think
that you eat.
I don't know. I did the skin
grass
test
for sure.
too.
Weed, mouse urine. Okay.
That one's random.
And then not as much with food. See, like this thing, it's interesting. Your food reactions are not major. This is a lung. This is a pulmonary barrier upregulation causing stomach inflammation, and I think you have that primed glial cell for some of those head injuries that are now reactivating every time you trigger your inflammatory response to some degree. When it gets really severe, like in a real infection, you get stroke-like symptoms.
Yeah.
And or hypoxia, you get stroke-like symptoms. And when it's just subtle inflammation, it's maybe contributing to a little bit of depression, a little bit of anxiety, your brain fog, your fatigue. If your energy and brain fog are 90% correlated, it's probably that.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is all working diagnosis. Like we may go 6 months into it, and we'll clean up your lung environment, and let's say you're like, hey, I don't feel like I need to be on my meds. I still have anxiety. Then there's another mechanism.
Yeah.
So that's another thing just to be conscious of. Like we have to work through your case, because how you respond is really the most diagnostic, and how you react and how things change and improve and things don't change and improve. That lets us know, because you could have layers of multiple things causing, let's say, anxiety. And this could be a contributing factor. Typically, you got to get the inflammatory source out of the way first, because it causes so many upregulation, so many other pathways that are so disruptive, and that seems to be your biggest inflammatory trigger. Okay. Now, your hypoglycemia is not good for your brain and your primed glial cells. So, just go over your diet with me, just quickly throughout the day. What time do you wake up, and what are some things you typically eat?
Anywhere between 8 and 9 I wake up, and then I have to wait because I take the thyroid medication in the morning, so I have to wait an hour to eat. And then I eat either scrambled eggs with sausage, turkey, or chicken sausage, or I make oatmeal. It's like fake oatmeal with seeds, with like hemp hearts and chia, flax.
What do you mean fake oatmeal? Like
there's not actual.
It's not gluten. I know you're gluten free.
No gluten.
I'm paleo, so it's
paleo or autoimmune paleo?
Just regular.
Okay.
So it's hemp hearts, chia seeds, flax, and coconut shreds.
Okay.
And then it makes into like a little mush.
So what's the source of the oat?
There's no oats. So they just call it oatmeal. Like
I see. It's just hemp protein.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. All right. So hemp meal. Okay. All right. So that's 8 and 9.
Yeah. I mean, I wake up at 8 and 9. I eat between like 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So that's 9 and 10. Your meal. Then what?
Usually like leftovers from the previous night, or we've been ordering from. Have you heard of Daily Harvest?
No.
They have like these paleo flatbread things with like cassava flour and potato flour.
Okay.
With veggies. I usually like to have protein, so if I have a flatbread, I'll put turkey pepperoni, which isn't the best, but otherwise I'll have like chicken or steak or beef, some sort of ground beef.
Okay. And what time is that?
Usually around 1.
Usually a snack though before, right?
Yeah.
What's your snack before?
A smoothie with collagen, or I got into a bad habit of eating these paleo pretzels, but then I realized that it spiked my blood sugar like crazy, so now I'm not eating them anymore.
Okay. And then, what about
dinner?
After one?
For a snack in the afternoon, I might have like some sort of veggie, like jicama, or if I haven't had a smoothie, I'll have a smoothie then.
But with your smoothie, it's just collagen, power, and fruit juice, Fruit,
yeah. I get those from Daily Harvest too, usually. It's like mango and hemp hearts, coconut cream, banana maybe.
Okay.
And then, are we on dinner? Or snack?
Afternoon snack.
Yeah, so you didn't tell me what the time your snack was.
Like 4?
4? Okay. So your lunch is at 1, and then your snack's at 4.
Yeah.
Is that too long for you?
Yeah.
Because it's 3 hours.
I think so.
You feel symptoms then?
Well, I mean, it depends. Yeah, I mean, I usually I'll snack on something. It might be like pumpkin seeds too.
Okay. But that's like when you can get shaky, lightheaded, irritable.
Mm-hmm.
Between
like
around 3.
The afternoon's bad.
Afternoon. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's common with hypoglycemia. Okay. And then what about after 4?
Like what do I eat after 4?
Yeah.
For dinner, we usually eat around 6 or 7, and by that time I'm like really tired.
Okay.
Maybe from the afternoon hypoglycemia or something. I don't know. But then we eat chicken, beef, or mushrooms, I guess.
With like salad.
Potatoes.
Usually some sort of either carb would be like potatoes or rice.
Yeah, we do eat rice, which isn't technically paleo.
Do you get tired after you eat?
Sometimes.
Is there certain meals that make you tired? Is it the carbs you take?
Yeah,
or?
probably. If I've waited to eat too long and then I eat a lot of carbs, then I
get tired.
It's super tired. My head gets stuffy.
But if you didn't wait too long and had rice, you'd be okay?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's 6 to 7, and then what's the next time you eat? Is that it? Or snacks?
No, I sometimes snack after that, maybe like applesauce.
What time?
8.
Okay.
And then I'll have collagen at like 10. But I can't tell if it's been making me have like anxiety. So
this is actual collagen powder?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then bedtime?
Yeah. 11.
Okay. There's some things here that are not going to work. There's some things here that are going to really promote your hypoglycemia. It's your applesauce in your smoothie.
Oh, the applesauce.
Yeah, right at nighttime, applesauce is like it's kind of. So we do want to get your blood sugar stable because ultimately we do want to reduce the load of your. Let's say we're having a working diagnosis. You have these prime glial cells. Okay. So things like hypoxia, things like inflammation, and things like drops in blood sugar will activate them. Okay. So we don't want and it's also going to impact your energy. So part of your fatigue is also not just the brain fog. I mean, it's not just the inflammation, of the brain, but it's also hypoglycemia, which then can add to it. But it's going to cause fatigue by itself. All right. Okay. Especially be that 1 to 4 period, right? And then you're already kind of like done by 7.
Yeah.
Okay. That's because you're like crashed.
Yeah.
And then you have sugar right before bed.
Yeah.
And then do you wake up in the middle of the night? I would expect you to.
No. I usually sleep just through the night.
No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
You said the magnesium you felt like.
Yeah, I take a lot of magnesium before bed.
Okay, what if you don't?
I don't know. I haven't not taken magnesium in so long.
It might be like that's why you're getting through.
Yeah.
You're just hitting yourself with a lot of magnesium. How much magnesium are you taking?
I don't know. It's not even that much.
300 milligrams or something.
Yeah, but I take 2 different types. I take threonate and then the glycinate. Yeah. The glycinate like wipes me out.
Okay. But 300 milligrams of each?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 600 milligrams.
You take that much?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Is that not how much is in the bag?
Well, no, 3 pills of the L-theanine is only like 133 milligrams.
Oh.
Well, double check. Let me know.
Okay.
It's fine if you do that. It's not a problem. I mean, it's helping you sleep the night. We want to make you sleep the night. Typically, people that have your symptoms would like have a hypoglycemic response middle of the night and wake up.
Yeah, I don't really. It like stays pretty steady.
When you wake up, do you have any anxiety or nervousness?
Mm-hmm. Okay. A little bit, and a headache sometimes.
Most mornings. Because if you get hypoglycemic at night, what's going to happen is your blood sugar is going to drop, and you're going to release epinephrine or norepinephrine.
Yeah.
For most people, that will wake them up. But if you're loaded on magnesium, you can be sedated through it. So you may not feel it, but you may wake up with anxiety because you have epinephrine or norepinephrine. So what we want to see, this is one of the things I want to check for. Okay, I'm going to make this thing on an email.
I definitely used to wake up with like intense adrenaline in the morning, but I haven't been in like 6 months.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can. We do have some anxiety, you said.
A little, like mild, just like.
Okay, that's what we want to monitor.
Okay.
What you got?
Okay.
Do you feel in the morning? Do you feel any other symptoms, like typically like not having an appetite?
No, I'm usually pretty hungry.
Okay.
I just feel tired and I often will have like a mild headache.
Okay. So the headache is we'll look for your headache and mild anxiety as you change your blood sugar. So the rule will be like, first of all, why are you guys using collagen powder?
I don't know.
Versus what? Or just in general?
Yeah,
or?
like what made you guys turn on to, hey, I want to start taking collagen powder?
I think
thought
just
it was
probably
the
some
protein.
article that said it's
Yeah.
to get protein.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't
A
know.
lot, a lot of functional doctors seem to recommend it, don't they? I mean, it's not good.
No, it's not that. Well, here's the thing. All synthesized proteins are different than real proteins.
Right.
So when you have overactive immune responses, like we don't want any of our patients that have really overactive immune responses to be taking any kind of protein powder
Oh, interesting.
because they're hydrolyzed. They're not the actual protein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that can be a common trigger. Like we'll have a lot of times with patients that have, oh, well, I'm on an organic pea protein. You're like, okay, stop.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I feel so much better.
Oh.
Or it's taken away. It's like collagen's great. Like if you actually have collagen, like actual bone broth, perfect.
Oh,
We
yeah.
do.
Yeah, we do that.
That's great.
Yeah, we do
But when you
that.
start mixing it into a powder,
Yeah.
that's when we
Doesn't
get a
have
little
the
bit
tryptophan.
worried. It's not just the tryptophan. It's just the protein is not, since it's not manufactured protein,
Yeah,
Mm.
makes sense.
right? I mean, it's not the same source. It's for most people. This protein powders, like for autoimmune diseases, I would really want to have people avoid them. You don't. I don't think you have an autoimmune disease. You don't have any antibodies that ever showed up, and I don't think you do. But and I've talked to you about some questions about your thyroid, but you never had any thyroid antibodies there either, even though you're hypothyroid. So I don't know. Just be careful with it. It's not like it's a something to keep your eye on. And if it's not really making a big difference in how you feel,
Yeah.
it might not be that great.
Okay.
But that's not the big issue. The big issue is the fruit smoothie.
Yeah.
Like this is making you have a big crash around 104.
Oh. I thought because it had like fat from the coconut cream and the collagen that it would stabilize.
I think you might be too vulnerable. Not to say you can't do that later,
Yeah.
but right now with your symptoms and saying you have low, like if you're crashing at 1 to 4 and then
Yeah.
are done by 6 to 7,
Yeah.
and then you wake up with a little headache,
Yeah.
like, those are all signs your blood sugar is like a roller coaster ride. And if you did the glucose monitoring and
Yeah.
you had these roller coaster rides and
Yeah.
you were low most of the time,
Yeah.
that you might not be able to tolerate that.
Mm.
Most
Okay.
people would.
Okay.
You can't. Not most
Yeah.
people. A lot of people could, but not everyone. You're in that group that it's not a good idea.
Okay.
For now. Okay?
Yeah.
So, what can you do besides that?
Well, can I just do broth then? Because
Yeah,
we make
that'd
bone
be
broth.
perfect. Just
Okay.
do a broth.
Okay.
So
Is that enough?
it's really the fruit. So when you're hypoglycemic, you're really worried about huge glycemic spikes with fruit and fruit juice. And
Yeah.
so so if we can change that to a broth or non-fruit, can you just stay off the fruit?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
So no fruit at all.
No, don't say that. I won't say that. Just don't have fruit by itself. Like if
Okay.
you have nice dinner and you want to have some fruit right after,
Yeah.
that's okay. You're not like
Yeah.
on a fruit elimination. The problem is when you have a huge fruit spike by itself,
Yeah.
like you have twice a day. You have the applesauce spike and you have
Yeah.
a smoothie spike. So that's what we want to avoid. So it's not like, oh, we need you to be off all fruit. You're not. I don't think that bad and severe enough to do that.
Okay.
But let's see if you stop this fruit smoothie and have broth or a salad or vegetables, and then and like at 8 o'clock at night instead of having applesauce, maybe you have some vegetables,
Okay.
celery sticks, cauliflower, something like that,
Yeah.
as a snack, and then we want to see if that changes your symptoms in the morning.
Okay. Okay. So I do drink spearmint tea also, I forgot, with honey, a little bit of honey.
By
Right.
itself,
Yeah, like after dinner.
right after dinner, or how long after dinner?
Yeah, like a half hour after.
Just for now.
Probably not.
Stop. So let's do
Okay.
this. The way you do this is you first become very strict, and maybe over the top a little bit. So we'll have you say no honey in there, and then if it does actually change your headaches and change your feel, then you can go, hey, well, let me try some honey
Yeah.
back in my tea, and then if you can tolerate it, then it shouldn't be a problem. But if then you
Okay.
can't tolerate, then you know.
So then can I have the honey tea with like lunch or
Well, let's just say
Or not
just
at
get off the honey too,
Okay.
because honey's so
yeah.
I mean, it's on the top of the glycemic.
Okay.
It's like it's a big roller coaster jump there.
What about maple syrup?
Same.
Okay.
You're like a hummingbird trying to find your nectar.
Well, because we make pumpkin seeds.
Well, just remember. Let's just think of it this way. Let's get you the. Let's have you for a good week. Avoid the fruit and honey.
Okay.
And see how you feel in the morning. May not be the first day, but give it a week, and then if you feel better, go back and then see if you can tolerate some honey with your tea.
No. Yeah.
But so that's another connection. So the first connection is the association between how your lung functions and your respiration and your brain. Another relationship is your brain fog and your fatigue being related together. Another relationship is going to be your blood sugar stability and your headache in the morning and just your energy levels. Your energy levels in the afternoon are for sure blood sugar.
Okay.
That 1 to 4, that crash
Yeah.
is blood sugar for sure.
Okay.
So that's like one layer of your fatigue, right? It's not the only thing, but that's like screaming. That's a problem.
Okay.
And if you had glucose monitoring, continuous glucose monitoring, and you showed low and then the spikes,
Yeah.
you have the reactive hypoglycemia, meaning that it's not like a medical hypoglycemia where you're worried about a disease because it's way below lab ranges, because your lab glucose ranges and then all the labs you sent me were all pretty good.
Yeah.
Some were like a little bit lower in that functional range, like we use in a functional mass model, like a little more critical, but it's like a hypoglycemia pattern, but not like below the laboratory range where we're really worried.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to work on your hypoglycemia. We're going to change your air environment. I'm going to put hypoglycemia management under phase 1 too. Okay.
Okay.
And don't worry about remembering all this stuff right now. I'm going to create like a report. Once we get done today, I'll spend the rest of the day writing out a strategy and a plan and phases and all that. We'll talk about it before it goes out. We have a pretty good idea, and then I'll send you the stuff like air purifier and the air particle measurement things you can get and all that, and then we'll have a plan. And then I'll send you some things you want to check with email. I'll be sending me emails every week to see how you're going, and then we'll do a follow up once a month for the first few months. And then what I'll do is when you send me an email every week, I'll ask questions I want to know about how things are going. Like one of the questions will be asked, but hey, how's it been stabilizing your blood sugar level? What have you noticed? Right? Tell me about your air quality and your respiration. Tell me about your brain fog and your fatigue. What kind of relationships are you picking up on? Just so I have an idea of those things. How's your energy level? How's your anxiety? And those are kind of like a journal entry. Think of it as a journal entry. I'm not going to respond to those emails unless it's just like, hey, this is what's going on. And the fact that you send it once a week, it just makes sure it's done. And then when we talk about when we actually do a follow-up in a month, I'll pull up those emails so we have a timeline.
Okay.
And then we'll go through those, and then it allows us to really stay focused and have a plan, and then it also creates that consciousness of what we're trying to look for. Because this is what you have right now isn't as simple as getting a lab test back going, we figured it out.
Yeah.
We got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take this and you're good.
Yeah.
No one ran the special test you needed and no one gave you the magic supplement.
Right.
Yeah.
These are like layers of mechanisms that have to be figured out. Okay? So when you say headaches on your chief complaint as number 7, is that your morning headaches or is that...
No, I mean, they kind of like come and go throughout the day.
Yeah, so that might be hypoglycemia. So we'll put not just morning headache.
No. Interesting.
Okay, so we'll see headache relationship, morning and throughout the day. So they just come and go throughout the day.
Yeah.
And it's not associated with dehydration, right? That's another thing that can do that. Are you drinking enough water?
I think so.
Okay. All right. So fatigue, is it... So when I asked you the question about fatigue, is there anything else you notice besides your blood sugar levels dropping and having the afternoon fatigue, and just when your brain fog is there, you have fatigue that may cause patterns of fatigue for you?
No, I mean, I thought it was partially due because of like maybe having a hypothyroid and just not having that regulated well.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just seems like...
I mean, you've had some TSH elevations that were there. Like when I was reading your case review, I was like, oh no. Not that you had mismanaged care or anything. You had the right kind of care. It was just like you're connecting everything to being related to thyroid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not that. That was the only thing I said oh no for. Because it was like, you can see the mindset of like, oh my god, I still have all these symptoms, so I had to change my dose, and then, then I had this, then I had this, then I had to back off, it was too much, and it's like,
Well,
and that's not uncommon. A lot of people, they play that thyroid game.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it does seem like it makes a difference for, at least in the beginning, when you first change medication.
Well, you're clearly hypothyroid in some of your lab tests, like outside the lab range. And it will absolutely get in the way of you recovering if you're in a hypothyroid state, meaning your TSH is high. Because your thyroid hormones control your metabolic rate.
Right.
But it's definitely more than thyroid. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about thyroid too, because that's a good position, a good thing to talk about. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think I kind of wanted to add some things higher up on the list.
Okay, go ahead.
Just I have bouts of irritability. It seems like it goes on for a couple of days.
Okay, what I'm going to do is add that to the headache list.
Okay.
Because blood sugar. Tell me more about the irritability. Because it may not be blood sugar, but it's very likely.
It just seems like some days I thought it was more tied to my cycle, but I don't know.
It might be. I mean, is it cycle related?
I don't know. It seems to change every month, though. It's not like 1 week for sure. It's every day. It's changes weeks in my cycle. So I don't
But it's daily?
It'll last for a few days.
Yeah, it just comes for a few days, and then I'm fine for a few days where I'm not irritable at all. But then those days where I'm irritable, it's everything is so annoying.
Yeah, I mean, there could be a hormonal component but it's not always linked to the state of your cycle. Okay. Well, I mean, your hormones do fluctuate throughout the month, too. Well, let's see what happens when you stabilize your blood sugar. Because that's one of those things where getting rid of inflammation and getting blood sugar stable really are two major pathways that get rid of a lot of smoke screen, because they can really cause a lot of diverse symptoms. And see if it's left over.
Okay.
And also, if you stabilize your blood sugar levels, it'll actually make your cycles and hormone fluctuations more regular, right?
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's keep an eye on that one.
Okay.
It says irritability, which you had it listed as number 10.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that one is frustrating.
Let's talk about thyroid really quickly.
Okay.
Have you ever had a common cold or respiratory infection and you had pain in your thyroid and pain in your neck?
I don't know.
To the touch.
I don't think so. I mean, I've had sore throats, and I probably, if I did have pain, thought it was that, but I don't.
Because there are some people that don't have autoimmunity as the cause of their hypothyroidism. Because it's not 100%, but it's 90%, 98%, depending on what you eat. It's the most common.
Yeah.
But there's a percentage of people that have different causes, and one of the most common causes is a viral infection that destroys the gland. They call it viral thyroiditis. And most viral thyroiditis are very obvious because people get anxiety and nervousness and irritability and tremor, but you have those symptoms all the time.
Yeah.
They would get worse when she has.
Yeah. So what happens is they get an infection, and then the virus infection, destroys the thyroid gland. But once it destroys the thyroid gland, those tissues have thyroid hormones in them. And all of a sudden they feel like hyperthyroid because the thyroid hormones from the tissue destruction get into the bloodstream, and now they have increased metabolic rate, so their heart rate goes up, they have palpitations, they have nervousness, anxiety, they have night sweats, they can't sleep. That's usually when they go to the doctor.
Yeah.
And then it typically viral thyroiditis typically happen after a common cold. The viral infection will infiltrate from the upper respiratory system into their thyroid gland.
Yeah.
And then for some people, the thyroid gets injured, and it's injured, and they can't make enough thyroid hormones from that point on.
Oh.
Then they go on thyroid meds, and then when you go on thyroid meds, you do get some atrophy of your gland. Because you're not using, if you take it, your cells aren't going to reproduce.
Yeah.
And they shrink.
Yeah.
So there's actually volume change that happens with people that go on thyroid meds. And then it's so it kind of perpetuates, but it's necessary, right?
Yeah.
And some people have viral thyroiditis is they have an infection, it goes away, and their thyroid recovers, and they're fine.
Yeah.
And some people don't. So it just depends on the degree of destruction.
Yeah.
So that's the second most common cause, if it's not autoimmune, of why someone would be hyperthyroid. There's also a percentage of people that have Hashimoto's that don't test for antibodies.
Oh.
And they only have biopsy findings that show that there's a pattern that's associated with Hashimoto's. It's just very small, 1%. But you could be that.
Yeah.
But But you have no other autoantibodies high ever when you've tested, except that WHO antibody, which I'm not too worried about.
Yeah. I don't know about the cold thing.
Okay.
Would that be then, I would have to think back when I first got diagnosed?
No, it would be a timeline before that, before your diagnosis.
So like when I was like 18?
Yeah, it's possible. How old were you diagnosed?
I think I was 19.
Yeah, 18. Yeah. 18 was a good time period.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't know? I don't know. And it may not be that. It's just something to think about. It's something to rule out, I should say. And sometimes you just don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes, well, the point is you're hypothyroid. For my input right now, I would say keep working with your physician, making sure that TSH is under control, but stop assuming that all your symptoms are related to that, because you're gonna end up overdosing yourself, and then like you've already done that. Yeah. For history. Okay.
So is it ever possible to go off of the meds and then have your thyroid start working again better, or producing those hormones all the time?
Well, for people that have full blown Hashimoto's, it's very unlikely that'll ever happen, because they keep having autoimmune disease, which is uncurable, constantly destroying it. For some people that had an injury to the thyroid gland, like an infection that caused injury, sometimes they do recover.
Yeah.
But it seems like for those people, like the TSH is consistent. They never get they never get the levels that are spiked up. Like you get TSH spikes several times.
Yeah.
Like above the lab range.
Yeah. Well, that was when I was off.
Right.
Yeah. So if I was off for maybe 2 months, maybe.
Yeah. Like 2020 November, your TSH was 8.54.
Yeah.
No one's gonna argue that's hypothyroidism.
Yeah.
It's clearly outside the lab range.
Yeah.
Right? And then in 2020. 21. No, that was the last one. That was in 10/5/2020 was 7.11. So like two repeated tests, clearly outside the lab range of hypothyroid. You're hypothyroid.
So if my thyroid would have been able to recover, it would have done it then when I was off the medication, or was that not enough time to test it?
Yeah, typically when people go off, it goes back into a normal reference range.
Damn.
But you were off for at least 2 months? How long? Yeah, and by 2 months you would, because thyroid hormones clear out really quickly. They're protein-based hormones. Protein-based hormones should clear really quick. Steroid hormones can last your body for a long time, but by 2 months you would typically know. Okay. So it sounds like you're working your entire stent, your Cytomel with your with whoever is it a functional medicine doctor that's doing that for you, or?
She was an endocrinologist, and then she's now a functional endocrinologist.
Okay. I would say just keep working with her with that. The only problem is we just want to not have too many functional medicine functional medicine interventions.
Yeah.
Because then we lose our window of like what's helping you, what's not helping you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, she's good about being separate.
Okay.
Yeah. She'll just do thyroid.
If you can work with her and have her just make sure your thyroid's okay and your TSH is being checked regularly, then that's perfect. Okay?
Yeah, she wants me to increase the Cytomel because I'm just on 5, but it seems like I get like anxiety when I take more.
Yeah, and again, that's like where you're trying to assume all your symptoms are thyroid, and then you go, well, you still have symptoms. Let me increase it. But it's clear with you that it's too much because you have hyperactive responses.
Yeah.
Okay. Moodiness, constipation, dry skin, dry hair. We're gonna those are in the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to move weight gain up because I think that's been a weird thing.
You don't appear like you're overweight to me, but tell me what you mean by that. Did you just have fluctuations, or?
Yeah, I mean, I gained 25 pounds last year, just like the beginning of the year or over the year.
And it's not like you were eating anything different.
No.
And it was unrelated to your like TSH fluctuations and did you bring hypothyroid? Or was it?
It was when I went on the Tirosint.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Right when you went on?
Yeah, that's when it started. Like, I was fine when I was off medication, and then it seemed like when I started going on Tirosint, I started having weight gain.
Was there any other mechanisms involved?
Maybe stress?
Oh, well, I don't know if that would be related, but I went off of Lexapro. fully.
Yeah.
In March or something.
You did it really slow. Like
yeah.
Are you having issues with it now?
What? Weight gain?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm still progressively gaining or if I'm like stopped, but I want to lose that weight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's not ignore that because I know it's important for you. But I would say getting your inflammation down and getting your blood sugar stable could make a difference in that right away. So let's keep it on the list and get rid of those smoke screens first and see if that changes. I mean, you could have had like being off Lexapro and then adding in a thyroid hormone, all of a sudden that kind of shocked your system.
Yeah.
But if we keep because it's a concern for you, and those two mechanisms can make a direct impact on that chief complaint. So if we're going to go do those two things first,
yeah,
then let's do that. Because if we start adding multiple interventions,
yeah,
it's like we won't know how to think through your case.
Yeah, I guess it was just more like a concern, like what is causing it. But I think you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It doesn't seem like it's a direct one linear mechanism. It's probably a combination of things that kind of disrupt your metabolism. I don't know. Let's put that on there. It's not even on chief complaints.
Really? No. I must not be caring
well,
about it whenever.
you were at 14 chief complaints, but that was which are important to know.
I don't know why I didn't put it there.
I think after you submitted, you were like, "Oh, I forgot that one." I think you maybe rushed a little bit through because you wanted to.
I was so stressed about getting that.
Well, let me know how your metabolism is functioning. If it slows down, if it gets worse, if it gets better, it stays the same.
Yeah.
Because if you were under a lot of stress and you went off your Lexapro and then you change your thyroid meds all at the same time,
yeah,
you could have shocked your metabolism.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Oh, I do have another thing. It's not any chief complaints. So you guys want to start a family?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Have you been trying to conceive without protection?
Just
the last 2
this
months.
month and last month, yeah.
But now we might stop after what you said.
Okay. Are you having regular cycles?
Mm-hmm.
Clockwork?
Pretty close, yeah.
And
in like a few days.
Okay. And then your periods are regular?
Mm-hmm.
Not heavy or light or?
I don't know. I mean, they kind of...
Consistent to what you've been having your whole life?
No, well, I mean, that totally changed when I went on birth control pills. It was totally different than when I went off.
But that was when? That was in your early 30s?
When I went on or off?
Both.
On when I was 17, off when I was 33.
Yeah, about 2 years ago.
So it's been 2 years you've been off, and you've had cycles regular since?
Actually, I think it's almost, 2.5 years.
Okay.
But it has gotten, I think, heavier than from when I was on birth control. Like more clots. I don't know if that's gross.
Okay, so here's the big picture related to that. The big picture related to that is there is a ticking clock.
Mm-hmm.
For real, right?
Yeah.
And that means how many healthy follicles do you have, and then at 35 and older is when you start to get really big changes. So, and that's referred to as like your ovarian reserve. Like what's the integrity of ovarian reserve, right? So there's a test called AMH that can measure as a surrogate marker what that is, and you can also the way people check to see what the ovarian reserve is. They'll do on the third day of your menstrual cycle. First day of bleeding would be day 1. Okay, so let's say you have bleeding day 1. On the third day, you get a blood draw, and they measure your FSH and estradiol.
Okay.
It's very predictive of your ovarian reserves.
Okay.
So the combination of like FSH and estradiol and the AMH test can be really good clues to see what's happening with your ovarian reserves.
Okay.
A next deeper step would be to have a reproductive specialist do a ultrasound of your ovaries and then you kind of know what like that time frame is,
Yeah.
and how much time you have to clean things and get healthy.
Interesting.
Because at this point it's like if you look at risk factors, and ultimately the risk factors are for not just having a child, right? Because you guys were trying for 2 months.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're like
We're on the second month.
Second month or something. So,
Yeah.
You have to go 6 months or more to be diagnosed with infertility and more. So
Yeah.
we're not sure if infertility is an issue, but we're not sure about infertility. We just want to have the healthiest
Yeah.
Yeah.
preconception physiology,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So lots of inflammation, chemicals, pesticides, all those things are things you can check for. So one part of this is we can if you want, we can check your ovarian reserves with those laboratory tests and see what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you're starting to show like your anti hormones is creeping up,
Yeah.
is it like in the ranges where you're losing reserve,
Yeah.
and your FSH estradiol loop isn't as efficient, then we're like, okay, we don't have much time to play. Let's just go.
Yeah.
Whereas if those look really good, you might have some more time to try to get as healthy as you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Sounds good. 'Cause it's kind of what we
Yeah.
want to know, what we've been wondering about.
Yeah.
And then we want to. There's online sources where you can have them send you a test kit. You can
Okay.
collect your sperm,
Mm.
and they can
Cool.
check for motility and mobility. You don't have to go to a clinic and get a cup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do all that.
Yeah, and I'm seeing you next month, actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In March 18th, I think, so we can talk
Oh,
about
that's
that
right.
too.
That's what I remember talking. Like, how did you guys both get in? 'Cause you guys, as soon as we opened it, you guys both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The portal.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Susan, for that. Great.
Yeah.
So, but in the meantime, you can do that ahead of time.
Okay.
Right. You
Yeah.
can do that on your own. I'll send you a link for that too.
Okay.
So, you guys want me? Do you want to do that? Do you want to check
Yeah.
your ovarian reserves? And
Yeah.
check
Just
your
a
sperm.
blood test and
Yeah, just
definitely.
blood test. You just have to go in day 3 of your cycle.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah. I love all tests.
So we'll get those responses pretty fast, pretty soon. Then.
It takes 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So what if we are pregnant now?
That's fine. If you're pregnant now, then we want to make sure you have the best prenatal nutrition. We want to make sure you're postnatally as healthy as possible.
Okay.
I mean, listen, this is just being like overly cautious, right? But like you have windows of opportunities. If you have window of opportunity to not do
Yeah.
the best things you can for it,
Yeah.
while you're already doing things would be silly, right?
Yeah. Right.
So, despite your symptoms, you're healthy enough to probably have a healthy child, but you always want to reduce as many risk factors.
Yeah.
And definitely plan on breastfeeding.
Yeah.
I mean, the research on that's crazy.
Yeah.
How much difference that makes.
Right.
So we'll do that.
So we shouldn't stop trying, or should we?
Well, if you already stopped, give me another 30 days.
Okay.
And the other thing we should check is pesticides and chemicals you may have in your body.
Oh. Okay.
So we'll do a urinary test, and they'll check all the most common pesticides. Those are definitely linked to risk for autism.
Yeah.
So we'll check our glyphosate levels, which is
Yeah.
can be very high, and there's a panel we do that'll check like I don't know, over 30 different pesticides and organic pollutants. Make sure you don't have a high load in your system.
Okay.
And if you do, like we might say, hey, let's just clear you out for the next
Yeah.
30, 40 days. And then if you let's say you come back and your sperm motility is off a little or something, you may be exposed to the same chemicals.
Right.
Yeah.
You may want to dig into the toxicology route, make sure those are a factor for you. Or maybe we have to really boost up your antioxidants or
Yeah.
Okay.
things like that. Okay.
I've been pretty hyper about at least household chemicals
Yeah,
and
she's
Okay.
in a good way.
Yeah.
So
and produce and all that. Like I've just thrown everything out that we used to have
Yeah.
over the last couple of years.
I taught a course for fertility last year, but we've reviewed all the different mechanisms, all the research, and all the things related to prenatal health and everything. And they say clinical strategies to improve fertility, but don't think of it as fertility because I could have just changed the name of the slide to reduce risk for childhood developmental disorders.
Yeah.
The biggest risk that these are associated with is autism development.
Yeah.
So autism, the studies show, are happening during conception, not during conception, but during brain neurodevelopment, like in the early parts of pregnancy, second trimester, and so forth. And the brain is completely changed and wired before birth. And those are the things you want to avoid, right?
Yeah.
And then to optimize health. So manage dysglycemia. You have dysglycemia. Reduce oxidative stress. You have oxidative stress. It's probably from all your inhalants.
Yeah.
Reduce environmental exposures. We'll check your chemical levels and see what those are. Improve microbiome health. Not so much for your microbiome, but your microbiome, but not your gut, your lung.
Yeah. Yeah.
Balanced fatty acid metabolism. Those are healthy fats. You're getting.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're getting good fats in your diet.
Yeah.
Cook kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Optimize hepatic transformation is like really supporting your detox diet. Improve BMI. I mean, you don't have an abnormal BMI. Optimize nutritional status. Reduce systemic inflammation. You have inflammation. Endocrine dysfunction is you just have to make sure you're not hypothyroid. That'll have a huge impact.
Yeah.
So it's the same list. Okay, but there are like when you go into a prenatal stage. Like we'll definitely want you to start mixing olive oil and avocado oil and canola oil and grapeseed oil.
Canola?
Yeah.
Well, you want me to have canola?
Yeah.
Oh.
But not the bad stuff.
Oh.
Organic cold pressed.
Oh.
No.
I had no idea.
Yeah, not the stuff you buy at the grocery store, stuff you buy at Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Organic cold pressed is a rich source of healthy essential fatty acids.
Huh.
What's the burning point? Do you have to just keep it, or do you just put it on like a salad, or how do you eat
It
it?
just mix it all. Salad. Yeah, you just mix the
Salad.
different oils together.
I do have a problem with avocado. It just sort of started
Yeah,
happening.
doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
Then that's fine. But basically, you want a spectrum of essential fatty acids. You want to make sure your microbiome is healthy. In your case, we're worried about your lung microbiome. We want immune support. And you're just like, I think when we get the lung issue out, it'll really make a difference for that. And then good fats, and then high antioxidants, which I don't want to use right now. Because when you start to use antioxidants, they have a quenching anti-inflammatory effect, especially for the lung barrier, and not so much for the gut, but the lung barrier. If you lip antioxidants, you can sometimes become asymptomatic, just like you're taking steroids.
Yeah.
And I don't want that phase. I want to see how just removing your air quality changes, right?
Yeah.
So let's get through the lung issue. Let's get through the cleaning up the air, improving the gut and lung barrier, and all that stuff. I'll put together a cocktail for you for the lung barrier. The lung barrier cocktail is going to be high amounts of fat-soluble vitamins, like really high doses of vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin K, mixed tocopherols, which are mixed forms of vitamins. Those are all things you need to regenerate the lung barrier. It's different than the gut. I know you had issues with glutamine in the past. That's more for the gut, but that's not for the lung. And then we do want to put you on some short-chain fatty acids that'll help with the lung barrier too. It's a supplement you take.
Okay.
And we want to do some things that decrease activation of those IgE cells, like quercetin.
Oh, I take that.
You do. What dose are you taking?
I don't know.
I'll put together the dose that I want you to take. It's usually really high. Might be much higher than what you're taking. So I'll put that cocktail in for the lung barrier protocol, and then we'll clean up your air quality in your home. And then that'll be like phase 1, and we'll keep your blood sugar stable. And then we'll see how you feel.
Okay.
And the second part of that might be, okay, let's really focus on your prenatal care. And then by that point, we'll have your chemical markers back. We'll get your ovarian follicle status, see what that's happening. We'll get your male factor patterns. And then at some point, we want to start jumping into the prime glial cells and really trying to promote autophagy and clear that pathway. That seems like the big picture to me as we make the phases. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
I just had another thing. I was told I have low iron, so I had been supplementing, but it doesn't make me feel very good.
Okay. Let's order an updated blood test on you.
Okay.
And I'll do a thorough screen for that.
Okay.
It's good to have an updated blood test. I think your last one was mostly
November,
thyroid.
maybe, or something?
November last year. Yeah.
Is that something you stop taking before the test, or does it not matter?
Which one?
The iron? Like, does she stop supplementing
No,
before?
just take it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because we'll be not really looking at too much at serum iron. We'll be looking at things like total iron binding capacity and red blood cells and
Yeah.
hemoglobin. It won't make much of a difference.
I think the total iron binding capacity was like higher than the level, but she was still said that I was.
Well, if that's higher, then you're iron deficient.
Oh.
So total iron binding capacity means your cells are trying to find iron. You're making more binding sites for iron because you don't have enough. So it means you're iron deficient. Do I have that lab test? I don't think I have that.
I think so.
I think
I sent you everything. Oh, right here. Or wait, no. Was it in November? It was probably November. Yeah, it was definitely November.
Let's see where it is. So this blood test is on November 23.
There's iron right there.
There's iron
Oh,
saturation.
so that one wasn't. Oh, maybe it was a saturation I was thinking of.
Okay, but that's not iron deficient. That's actually iron overload. They put you on iron?
That's what I thought. But she said because the ferritin was low.
Oh shit! The ferritin's 20. No. No. If this panel, which is total iron is normal and total iron binding capacity is normal, but just percent saturation is high. Your ferritin, the range is 6 to 54, and they said, and it's 28.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not appropriate.
2 doctors told me that.
Are you sure it's this panel?
Yeah, is this in November of last year? There should be another iron in November too, and it was even, I think, even a little higher.
Okay, so you're not anemic. Here we go.
That one, yeah.
Oh yeah, so this is the one.
That one's high too.
1123. Total iron is high.
Yeah.
Iron saturation is high. Yeah, when your total iron is high, you don't give more iron.
That's what I was saying.
Actually, total iron is not the best marker, but iron saturation is a very, very sensitive marker for iron overload. This is that's not a good idea.
Interesting. Yeah, because it makes me feel bad whenever I take it.
Yeah, it'll promote. So when you're inflamed and you take iron and you have iron overload, it promotes more inflammation. It's called the Fenton reaction. You had 2 people tell you that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
Don't say their names, but
okay, the endo and the one at the other functional doctor.
They're both functional, yeah.
Yeah, they're both functional.
And they both said it because you had high iron saturation.
They both said.
You sure there's no other lab test?
I mean, before that, but I still.
If you feel bad, if that's your lab's test and you feel bad, then don't take it.
Yeah.
That's not appropriate. We'll do an updated blood test. We'll look at markers for iron saturation, TIBC, ferritin, all that. And yeah, that's completely opposite approach.
Yeah, good.
Because I was telling her I'm like really hot and I don't feel sweaty and I don't feel good when I take it. She's like, no, you need it. It's in my prenatal too, so should I not take that anymore?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
there isn't a very there's not an efficient iron clearing mechanism in the body. It's really hard to get rid of iron when you get iron overload. Sometimes we can't get rid of iron levels high until someone donates blood.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's like if you're already in the iron saturation 11% above normal range, like not 11 units, 11%.
Oh, jeez.
And now you're taking more.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Just stop, and then we'll see what your recent blood tests are.
Okay.
And hopefully you're not an iron overload.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
Any other questions for me?